He is on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line. Michael Malone. How are you, Coach?
Doing well, Rich. Really appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. There's so much I want to ask you about your background and your history. But first things up, because Stan Kroenke owns the Nuggets, were you mandated to root for the Rams in the Super Bowl, Coach Malone?
Yeah. Hey, I'm a good company man, Rich.
Okay.
And, I was definitely rooting for the Rams in the Super Bowl. Very happy. Any of Stan and Josh's teams, Arsenal, the Rams, Avalanche, and the Nuggets, I'm all for.
That's right. So there's an I in Michael, but you are a team player. Is basically what you're saying on that front.
Right.
Does that mean you also drink Screaming Eagle? Is that also part of this equation? The Kroenke, the red.
I would drink it. I'm just waiting to get my hands on a bottle.
Yeah, well, come on, come on. Yeah, then they're very. I mean, I don't know if that fits under the cap, but they're very, very pricey. But I think you know somebody, if you're a red wine drinker, to go and just see what you can. I mean, not a case, but at least a bottle or something, right?
Yeah. I don't think a bottle is out of the question. So, yeah, I'll have to talk with Stan about that. He's obviously feeling really good. The Rams win it. The Avalanche are rolling. We're having a good season considering all the injuries that we've had. I think Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, things are going well for the family right now, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Michael Malone, the head coach of the Denver Nuggets here on the Rich Eisen Show. So let's jump into it right here. You mentioned the injuries. There are some significant ones that you have been dealing with and some bold-faced names to boot. Can you give me an update on Jamal Murray's status right now, as best you can tell?
Yeah, as we all know, last April at Golden State, he suffered a torn ACL, and it's been a long journey as he's trying to rehab and get back to playing from that injury, Rich. I'm so proud of Jamal because he has attacked it, he stayed with it, and he is around the team. He's able to do some things in practice, not live, not contact, obviously. And hopefully, we have 21 games remaining. Sometime in March or April before the playoffs, there's definitely a hope that he can rejoin the team at some point. But ultimately, I say this, and Jamal and I have spoken about this, he'll come back when he's ready. It's not just going to be the doctor saying you're cleared to play. As we all understand, rehabbing and coming back and not playing for close to a year is also a big mental hurdle. And I want him to feel comfortable and confident when he makes a decision to come back. When you say mental, just making sure that he doesn't think twice about making a cut or doing something on the court? Is that what you mean by mental? Exactly. I think on one hand you have the injury is healed. He's passed all the checklist parts of coming back and being cleared to play. But there's also the mental component, as you mentioned, of, okay, am I confident enough to go out here and play an NBA game after 11 or 12 months? Can I push off that leg? Can I jump? Can I do all the things that used to be second nature? And now you see it and hear about it from every athlete who comes back from the ACL. When you come back, obviously there's definitely some hesitation, and guys are out there thinking instead of just playing. And he's going to have to get over that at some point. But He'll tell me when he's ready. When that time comes, this year or next, obviously we're a much better team when Jamal Murray plays and puts on a Nuggets uniform. Nuggets head coach in his 7th year with the team, Michael Malone, here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what's the scoop with Michael Porter Jr.? Is there a scoop with him to get him back? Yeah, no, I mean, very, very similar to Jamal. Obviously, the big difference is Jamal's been out for close to a year, and Michael's been out for 3 months. He had his third back surgery, and Michael, like Jamal, has really attacked his rehab. Getting healthy is number one priority, and then he is also participating in parts of practices, parts of shoot-arounds, and it's all the things where there's really no contact and we're not doing anything live. They're not cleared for that just yet, but just the slow integration of both Jamal and Michael, having them back around the team, having them back on the practice court at times, it's been uplifting for them as well as all their teammates. And I think we all realize that as well as we've played this year, winning 6 in a row, being 8-1 in our last 9, we all know that when we have a healthy Michael Porter Jr. and a healthy Jamal Murray, we're a team that we feel has a great chance to win a championship. So do you think you're lying in the weeds? Is that what you think, maybe?
here?
I don't know. I just the group that has played all year has done a great job of not using the readily available excuse of, well, we're injured, this year doesn't matter. That hasn't been our mindset. And when guys get back from injury, we'll welcome them back and integrate them back into the rotation. But, yeah, if they're able to come back and play, Rich, we're a better team. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I mean, you are definitely, drawing up some great plays, like the have Jokic throw it behind his head, no look to someone in the corner, wide open. Great way to draw that one up, Coach Malone.
Yeah.
I saw that on my phone, and I'm like, holy crap! I seriously scrubbed it back and watched it 10 times in a row. What is that like from your perspective when you see that?
Well, obviously, anytime you have the opportunity to coach a great player as a head coach in this league, it's a privilege, it's an honor. And Nikola, as a reigning MVP, is making a strong case to be a repeat MVP. And his ability, I think the one thing I enjoy most about coaching Nikola, his success, his money, his fame, he has not changed. He's really a selfless leader. He's embarrassed by the attention. And that's one thing I love about him, that never changing, staying true to himself and being just a humble, selfless guy. There's not many superstars like that. And the second thing, as you mentioned, what you love about him is his ability to make everyone around him better, which for me, son of a coach, I think is the true definition of greatness. How do you make everyone around you better and lift their games up? And Nikola does that. Hey, no Jamal Murray, no Michael Porter, it doesn't matter. We have Nikola, and he's going to bring the best out of Monte Morris, Will Barton, Jeff Green, Aaron Gordon, and everyone else down the line. So his unselfish, his IQ is just a pleasure, and obviously he makes me a hell of a lot better of a coach.
That's right. I ascribed you to drawing up that play. So does he do that in practice? I mean, was that the first time you've seen that?
No, I tell you, Joker and I came in together. We've got 7 years together. And, I saw very early in his rookie season that this guy's skill level was off the charts. His ability to rebound and push the break, make no-look passes, it's just something that I almost challenged myself never to take him for granted, because he is 7 years. You've seen him do it so many times, but he still amazes you with the passing, the playmaking, the ability to hit clutch shots, the ability to grow as a leader and to learn to be more vocal and to be more comfortable being more vocal. He's like, he hasn't reached his ceiling. He's still getting better in other areas, and that's the thing I love about him. He's not satisfied.
Michael Malone, Denver Nuggets head coach here on the Rich Eisen Show. So you mentioned you're the son of a coach. Brendan is your dad. I'm 52. I think you're 50, right? You're just a couple of years younger than me. And I remember as a New York kid being on the campus of the University of Michigan as the Bad Boys were beginning to blossom. Man, did I hate their guts. I absolutely hated their guts, to be very honest with you. Were you like a teenager with a front row seat during practice watching those guys?
Oh, man. I've been really privileged, Rich. Obviously my father started out as a high school coach in New York City, Powell Memorial, and worked his way into the NBA. And, I'm in high school, used to go to the New York Knicks games with Pat Ewing, and being able to shoot around Madison Square Garden as a young kid from Queens and Long Island was like a dream. And then he goes to Detroit and the Bad Boys and the back-to-back championships, and being around Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Vinnie Johnson, John Sally. I was really fortunate to grow up as the son of a coach, and I just have great memories of driving around when he was an assistant coach at Syracuse and going to games in New York City and helping recruit Pearl Washington and other guys that he would be watching and recruiting. So I have so many stories, and just really blessed to have that experience as the son of a coach. And I believe that's really helped me become the coach that I am today.
Was that Bernard King, too? Was Bernard around at that time when you were on the floor?
That was after, obviously, Ernie and Bernie down in Tennessee, Ernie Grunfeld and Bernard King.
That's right.
But I remember, Billy Donovan, Mark Jackson, Kenny Smith, Dwayne Washington. There's so many players in the New York City area that I just would be walking around with my father watching these games, and I loved it.
And so what presence did Chuck Daly have in your life?
Coach? Yeah, obviously Chuck Daly, one of the greatest coaches in NBA history, and just whether it was Hubie Brown with the Knicks, whether it was a Chuck Daly whether it's Jeff and Stan Van Gundy, all guys that my father worked for.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't just the players, but as an aspiring coach myself, just to be a fly on the wall, to learn, to pick things up, to see how they coach, and every coach is different. You have a guy in Chuck Daly who looked the part. He's one of the best dressed coaches in NBA history. And then you had other guys, who just, grinded out coaches who were, their work ethic is legendary. So I think you can learn and take something from everybody along the way. And that's what I try to do from my father. But even when I was an assistant for many years in the league, learning from the guys that I worked for.
What about, you got a good story from, I guess, let's just throw out the Pistons days? Did Mahorn come up to you? Did Lambier haze you? Did anything happen? Rodman, anything from the Bad Boy days that you might remember?
I just remember, being around those teams, and this is the Bad Boys and them in Chicago just having battles. And obviously Chicago had to get through Detroit for their ascension and to go on their historic run that they wind up going on with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Phil Jackson. But I just remember being at practices and listening to Joe Dumars, talking about, how hard it was to guard a guy like Michael Jordan. And he would come down on the break and he'd literally put the ball on his hand and he could just go wherever he wanted. And just, I never took it for granted. Here I am, a young kid being around NBA players, NBA champions, and just they always treated me well, and it was always a pleasure to be around those teams, whether it was a Knicks team, a Piston team, my father's first head coaching job in Toronto, whatever it was. I always took a lot of joy in terms of seeing my father and being around those teams.
I got to be honest, I have just, again, such an affinity for those times, and it's just like any generation, right? My generation's better than the current generation, but is the game better now, or because, obviously it's a more three-point centric game. Nobody's put on their ass as much as those back in the day. What's your philosophy on all that, being a head coach in this current day and age and seeing what used to be in this league?
Well, yeah, it's funny. I speak to my father about it all the time, and he's obviously old school. He was in the league for a long time, and he has a hard time watching the NBA game today because of, as you mentioned, all the three-point shooting. And let's be honest, the game has changed. You mentioned it, guys getting put on their ass. You talked about the Bad Boys. I go back to the New York Knicks with Charles Oakley and Patrick Ewing and those guys. The game has changed, and the NBA wanted the game to change. They wanted to clean it up. They wanted to make it more fan-friendly. And that is always what that means is they've tried to make it more scoring because scoring makes more fans watch and more entertainment. And that's what it's all about. But I like the old days. I like the physicality, no layups, not dirty, not trying to hurt anybody, but making people feel you out there. And I think there's some teams that play like that now, but the game has definitely changed. And the reality is, Rich, the game is always changing. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving, and you have to be willing to change with it.
Michael Malone, a few more minutes left with the Denver Nuggets head coach here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so you said you've put your old school credentials on the table. You called Chuck Daly one of the best dressed head coaches of all time. I have to be honest with you. I'm going to be straight up. I'm very disappointed that NBA head coaches are dressing like they're going to the gym for practice. And, again, it's not my dry cleaning bill, and it's not my bill to go, shopping. But what's the deal? What happened? What happened?
Yeah,
to the suits, Coach?
It's funny. Well, I'm going to go on record saying I hope it never goes back. I know there are people like yourself. A lot of people say NBA head coaches look like they're, middle school gym teachers right now. But I love it. I love it. When you go on a 14-day, 7-game road trip, you're not packing 7 suits, shirts, ties, dress shoes, belts, coordinating all that. You're just packing a pair of really comfortable pants, shoes, and a quarter-zip pullover from Nike. And
that's it.
It all happened when we went to the bubble.
Right.
And there were no fans. And the idea was, well, if there's no fans here, what the hell are we dressing up for? And it's the NBA coaches have overwhelmingly voted to continue to have this as long as the NBA is willing to allow it, because I think You're out there, you're coaching, you're sweating, and it's a lot easier to do your job comfortably as opposed to looking like a Pat Riley or Chuck Daly dressed to the nines.
So is there anybody out there that's pushing for the suit to come back? Anybody?
There's definitely some coaches that are kind of, whether it's old school mentality that they like the fact that we're dressing up and we're not a gym teacher and you're putting your suit and tie on, you're looking the part.
Right.
But let's be honest.
Yeah.
You had a Chuck Daly, but then you also had guys like Don Nelson wearing the fish tie in Milwaukee. So, even back in the day, you had some coaches that took I'm going to dress and I'm going to take pride in my dressing.
Right.
And you had other coaches saying, listen, I'll put a jacket and a tie on, but I'm not worried about how it looks. I'm worried about coaching my team. And I think that's what a lot of coaches now feel is, hey, I'm not a banker. I'm not a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a coach. Let me go out there and be comfortable. Hey, Major League Baseball, they wear the uniform.
I know, right? I know.
Maybe we should wear the uniform.
Yeah, just like a Jackie Moon movie or something. You just show up in your shorts, But again, I'm fascinated by this, and then I'll let you go. I promise you. So, because if a head coach just showed up, okay, let's just say later on this year, Quinn Snyder just shows up in a full suit and tie because we think he's the guy that really is desperate to get the suits back on, to be very honest with you, Coach. Like, would this be a problem if another head coach just showed up in a suit and didn't tell anybody and just started wearing it? Would that be an issue, do you think?
It would not be an issue for me, and I actually have a story about that.
Yes.
I think it was the end of last season, and we were getting ready to play Portland, and Terry Stotts, who was their head coach at the time,
Mm-hmm.
Have a great relationship, Terry, great coach. He should be back in the NBA. But he sends me a text and says, hey, listen, for our game, we're going to wear suits and ties. Are you okay with that? And I said, hey, Terry, knock yourself out. I said, I'm not wearing a suit and tie. But if you guys want to wear a suit and tie and impress your home fans, have at it.
Okay.
And they did. They all came out with suits and ties on, and they looked great, but we were over there looking really comfortable.
So he gave you the professional courtesy at least, right? Like he didn't want to show you up.
He did.
Okay.
He didn't surprise us. He gave us a courtesy. I actually think he was hoping that we'd wear it, but we had already left Denver on a 3-game road trip, and I said we didn't pack any suits, and even if we had time, we wouldn't pack suits anyways.
I am fascinated by this. All right, so last one for you. What would it mean to bring the Larry O'Brien Trophy to Denver? What would that mean for you?
That would mean so much. You talked about Stan Kroenke earlier in the show, and I've gotten to know Stan and Josh. Terrific ownership group. Very fortunate that they continue to believe in me. But they've won a Stanley Cup, they've won an NFL, and they love basketball. So first and foremost, I mean this. It would mean a lot to the Kroenke family because that's one thing that they're still trying to attain. It would mean a lot for our staff, our players, the organization, but more importantly, it would mean a lot to this city. I've been here 7 years. Our fans have been phenomenal, a big part of our ascension in the Western Conference. So to bring home a world championship to this city, to our fans, would be an honor and a privilege, and I think we'd all be very, very proud to be a part of that. So that is what drives us every day, Rich. That is our goal, and hopefully in the next few years we're able to make that goal a reality.
Well, thanks for the time, Coach. This has been a blast. I hope it's the first of many other times that you come on. Send my best to your dad. I'm, again, a diehard Knick fan from those days. Anthony Mason's another name that I loved in terms of putting people on their ass. We had Oakley here the other day. He's selling a book, and those are my days, man. Those were my times, and I loved them. So thank your dad, although the bad boy stuff really pissed me off. It's all good. It's all good.
I'll let him know that the Knick days were okay, not so much for Detroit. And, Rich, it was really good to be on with you.
Thank you.
I look forward to doing it again. And anytime I can talk to somebody from Staten Island, it's a good day.
Yes, that's right. I'm from the Rock. That's where I'm from. That's where I'm from. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go. That's Michael Malone, Coach Michael Malone of the Denver Nuggets. What a pleasure.
That was great.
What a pleasure. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.